Hello, everyone. We are so glad to have you with us today. If you're here, you're one of over 1,000 people who registered for this truly special event. My name is Eunice Lynn Nichols, and I'm the co-CEO of Cogenerate, a national nonprofit that brings older and younger people together to solve problems and bridge divides. We, as an organization, have long admired the On Being Project and are thrilled about this partnership and the gorgeous digital media collection that we've co-created together. And if you're like me, you've also spent a long time being a fangirl of Krista Tippett and the On Being podcast. And if you've done that, you also know that they're just the tip of the iceberg on the amazing team at the On Being Project that creates content, amazing conversations, tools, and resources for answering some of the biggest questions in life, but doing it in a way that is deeply, deeply human. So today you're in for a real treat as we showcase these 8 gorgeous new digital media collections that we're doing with our fellows, our community of creatives, changemakers, and healers. And we've done it in collaboration with the amazing On Being team. You'll get a chance to preview these 8 pieces today and explore how generations are coming together to advance social healing in truly beautiful and unique ways. The collection itself was produced by On Being and can be found on their website. So I strongly encourage everyone to spend some time with it after the event. I promise you're going to want to spend some time experiencing this collection with spaciousness to absorb the unique wisdom that each piece has to offer. And we really encourage you to engage with the individual prompts we provided after each piece on the website and ask that you share and bring these reflections and practices back to your communities. So without further ado, it is my great privilege to invite Krista Tippett to do what Krista does best, to prepare our collective hearts, minds, and souls to enter this space together, to engage deeply with the content we're about to see and hear, and to do that in community with one another. She's going to help us understand why cogenerational social healing is more important now than ever.
Thank you so much, Eunice. I'm distracted by looking at all the lovely hellos in the chat and where people are coming from. And first of all, I want to offer my gratitude for this project that I've mostly watched with delight, and it's been thrilling to see it come together. It's been a beautiful collaboration between our work. As you say, my colleagues are extraordinary, and it is really exciting to now share this with the world. So I just, want to join you and everyone in a spirit of celebration that we got to this point and that we have created this gift, which involves the gifts of so many, including, of course, all of the people who've taken part and shared their stories. Cross-generational relationship, friendship, mentoring has always been something that found its way into the heart of our conversations about what it means to be human and how we want to live and who will we be to each other. It seemed to me for a long time that I think this kind of relationship has always in the history of our species been essential and life-giving and resilience-making. And it's something that certainly in American culture, it has been largely lost. But what has been so fascinating to me is that people haven't inherited that in the way I think previous generations of humans and even Americans inherited that. But I see new generations and those of us at the other end of the generational spectrum reaching for it, kind of remembering in our bodies that this is something we need to be whole. And a conversation we've had with you, with our colleagues at Cogenerate, is also this deep understanding we share that we live in a species moment. The work we have to do is, in this century, we are called to existential work, really to remake the world. The work that is before us of healing and repair and creating, of social creativity, is the work of our lifetimes. And for that, we need all of our forms of intelligence and wisdom. We need to be accompanied by others, including others who hold in their bodies a different sense of time. and different kinds of wisdom. We need each other to walk forward. We need each other to help us hold things like hope and courage and love on the days when it's too much of us to ask of ourselves. And cross-generational friendship and mentoring does that in a singular way that we so much need. And so I want to stop talking and let all of you experience what's been pulled together here. And again, I'm so grateful, and I offer a deep, deep bow from me.
Thank you, Krista. So special to have you with us to kick this off. I've learned so much from you and from your on-being colleagues about the importance of experiencing things in generational time. Love that language. And that this is as much an act of re-remembering as it is of creating something new. So I'm going to begin by introducing our first artist, who will then introduce the next person, and so on and so on. It'll be kind of like a river of cogenerational creativity flowing through us over the course of the next hour. But first, I met Robina Richie 2 years ago when she joined our inaugural Innovation Fellowship, and she immediately captivated me with her creativity, humor, depth, and heart. Robina is an artist in the truest sense of the word, but she's also a teacher, and she's a co-founder of For You. Her project, Circle of Chairs, is a 12-minute audio-guided folk dance that brings 12 people together in public places for impromptu connection and absolute delight. Let's take a look.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, go!
Tire of seeing that piece, Rowena. I'm so glad to be able to tee off the first question for this experience. So my question is simple: where did the Circle of Chairs idea come from? And just as importantly, why was it so critical to you to make age diversity an integral part of your creative exploration?
Circle of Chairs stands on the shoulders of all of the audience-driven performances that came before it. I'm talking about the legacy of experimental performance charged with the curiosity and pleasure of getting to know someone for the very first time. And this is a theme that underscores all of the work we create as For You. We say we bring strangers together for intimate encounters. That could take the form of hosting Circle of Chairs in a public setting that attracts strangers aplenty, like a park or the library. And it can be used as a tool to deepen intimacy among people who already know each other, such as a group of Cogenerate colleagues, or even a family reunion, because many of us are strangers when it comes to relating to one another through dance and performance. But we all have signature moves and stories. And what we've learned is that many cases, older people have fewer and fewer opportunities to share their dances and their stories. So we step towards, we circle up, we connect cogenerationally to affirm, I see you, I feel you, and to feed those dances and stories back into the community and culture so we become the shoulders the next generation of participatory performance makers can stand on. Give it a try. It's really fun. Anybody can host it. There's a link to the downloadable how-to guide on the website, as well as links to all of the audio files. Now I'm excited to introduce Dr. Kitty Oliver. Dr. Oliver is an oral historian, an author, a performer, and a producer. Her project, Don't Put Your Dreams Away, explores some of the indomitable traits across generations that we can draw on as we work for social change.
Follow the spirit, follow the spirit, follow the spirit, follow the spirit. Here's to the eldest ones who still think they'll weather storms and rise above clouds in their mind. Tell them that life's all pain, we come and go like drops of rain. But they won't put their joy away. They will never put their joy away. Follow the spirit, follow the spirit, follow the spirit, follow the spirit. Don't you let them take your joy away. Follow the spirit. Don't you ever put your dreams away. Follow the spirit. May they never put their wings away. Follow the spirit. May they never put their wings away.
Yes. Dr. Kitty, as a fellow performance maker, I couldn't help but wondering if you could tour this performance anywhere, who are your dream audiences and what are your dream responses to this performance?
Well, I use music a lot in my intergenerational race and change presentations, and it helps to open hearts as we talk about some very difficult issues. And the intention of this song was to reconnect with the spirit of joy in reimagining the world in a way that affirms our humanity. And that's the spirit that sustains us from childhood throughout our life. And it sustains the work that we do for social change. So if I had dream audiences, I'd say people like this gathering who are committed dreamers and healers and change makers, and they're looking to renew their resilience. I see it in communities and spaces where healing is needed and people are ready for something, for a little different approach. It could be a welcoming song of inclusion that starts out an event or a project, or even a closing song to send people off with the next call to action with a renewed enthusiasm about working together. And as for the response, maybe feeling a little more hopeful, a little more inspired, and having a little more of that sense that our personal and collective power exists so that we can deal with the problems of our era and we can embrace possibilities at every stage of life. It's also very personal to me because I'm a product of people who faced despair and they still dreamed beyond what seemed possible in their time. And here I am today with you. So the least I can do is pass that spirit on in my life and in my work and in this song. So I thank you so much, Robina. And now I'm excited to introduce Uma Minion. Uma is an author. She's a human rights advocate, and she's a Princeton University student. Her poem is In Which We Say We Won't Go Back. And the poem explores the complexity of a generational view of time in which progress ebbs and flows. So tell me first, Uma, was there a particular frustration that led to the piece? And if so, how did writing it help you to move through that or change how you see the passage of time?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kitty, for asking this question. So I wrote this poem In Which We Say We Won't Go Back last summer in the wake of the news that the Supreme Court was overturning Roe v. Wade. I was doing an internship in Washington, D.C. during that time last summer, and I spent a few of my evenings and weekends going to protests and advocating for reproductive justice. One of the themes that I heard a lot in speeches and rallies during that time that struck me the most emotionally was the idea that we had lost something our mothers and grandmothers and previous generations had fought for. Not only had their hard work and advocacy been undermined, but we had also lost a fundamental human right that we'd had for decades, that generations before us had been able to enjoy because of the hard work of advocates from the past. I wrote this poem to engage with that struggle and to really understand that progress towards social justice is truly nonlinear. We can't take for granted what we fought for and achieved yesterday. We must look to previous generations with gratitude, but also realize how much we can learn from those who came before us, who made this world possible for us. We Won't Go Back was an important rallying statement and rallying cry in the wake of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. But it's not just that we won't go back, we must push forward, and pushing forward looks like learning from previous generations. And that's sort of what this poem is about. It's about the movement towards social justice and the intergenerational connection that's necessary for that. Now I'm happy to share with you the poem In Which We Say We Won't Go Back. Protest. In the summer heat, my eyes darting waterless, lightheaded, seeing fear turn paper real, seeing the past called back into truth. Lettering in our hands and humid voices in the air about bodies and souls and peoples. In those speeches, notes about our mothers and their mothers, their aches and the ointments they hatched, carefully blood-sown. Their sutures ripped apart, our wounds left to wince. My grandmother's spores and news, her one wrist fractured, the other scrolls upward as the page moves down. The paint on her walls crackling, though it feels so new to the eye. Our heads swivel, visions crumbling to ash, panting down our necks. I want someone to tell me, where is back? Where is this place we are headed? I've never glimpsed it before. I wonder, do the rivers there sparkle or are they forever static? Now it is my pleasure to introduce Catherine Young-Mi Kim. Catherine Young-Mi Kim is the director of the Koreatown Storytelling Program in Los Angeles. Her project explores how meaningful cogenerational knowledge sharing can take place simply through making food together. In this instance, the art and tradition of making kimchi. My question for you, Catherine, is what do you see as possible when it comes to cogenerational healing via the communal practice of cooking together.
Thank you, Uma. We launched the intergenerational Koreatown storytelling program in March of 2020, right after the COVID-19 lockdown, just a few days. And throughout our program, a lot of our participants, both the younger and older participants, were dealing with different levels of isolation and anxiety, like most of us. And several of our participants also lost family to COVID. So when we come together in person, it still feels like a celebration. This school year, we are studying food in Koreatown. So we're taking photos of the grocery stores, we're interviewing food servers and street vendors and restaurant business owners. And we thought that food would be sort of a safe topic for us to discuss. And it's sort of a soft pitch to build trust and open, easy dialogue. But what we discovered instead was that for some of our older adults who were coming from countries where they had experienced civil conflicts or war, our elders from Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, and the Korean Peninsula, food scarcity became a topic of conversation. And so we started food making workshops. It was a way for our older adults to be active participants and not just the interview subjects. We wanted them to lead the workshops. And the food making workshops were really joyful experience. There was a lot of laughter and communion. My student Kimberly says here, the quote, "Cooking with elders is a sacred practice." And I love this idea of food as being sacred. For us, cooking together was a form of healing. And for our in-person cooking activity, we sort of reframed food as the sharing of culture and tradition and abundance. And so we really kind of saw it as a form of social healing for our community.
How do you see cooking and storytelling operating as a cross-cultural, cross-generational experience?
Our last food making workshop was a few weeks ago, and we made Guatemalan chilaquiles. And the Koreatown neighborhood is equally Latinx and AAPI. It's about 40% each. And so we wanted to ensure that we were learning about all the cultures in our community. And so, for example, I thought I knew what chilaquiles were. I was like, oh, we're going to make something with tortillas and eggs. It's sort of like a breakfast dish. But that's chilaquiles. It's Mexican chilaquiles with an E. And what we were making is Guatemalan chilaquiles with an A. We made them with chayote, which I have here. I'm showing you. It's a squash, and we battered it in egg and then pan fried it with a little bit of queso fresco, which is like a soft cheese. And what we discovered is that there's an almost identical dish called hobakjan, which is a Korean battered egg fried zucchini, and we served it with kimchi. And so we were all really fascinated about how, you know, with these two countries, Guatemala and South Korea, being so far away, that we had this almost identical dish served in such an identical way. At the end of our food making workshop, I have each of the students ask the elder storytelling questions. So where did you learn how to make this dish? Or what's your favorite food memory around this dish? And for our kimchi making workshop, our elder, Mrs. Lucia Jung, it turned into this whole narrative about her courtship and how her husband had sort of pursued her. And then she got married and moved in with her in-laws. And she learned how to make kimchi from her mother-in-law when she was living with her for the first time. And so it turned into this human experience about like falling in love or making a delicious dish. And it became this sort of universal experience. And so that's the way that I see this cross-generational storytelling experience kind of coming together. But I encourage everybody, on our On Being page, we have a guide on how to do this in your own community. And so we really want to hear from everybody about what their community's recipes are and how they've been able to do this experience. So we have a whole how-to guide, and please respond back to us. It is now my pleasure to introduce Serena Beyond. Serena Beyond is a public health advocate, community steward, seeker, and a monk. She is also a special advisor for the Surgeon General of the United States. Her essay, Encounters Across Time, explores intergenerational healing and the search for belonging, She's going to read a portion of the essay to us now.
Thank you, Catherine. 3 weeks into my pilgrimage, I collapsed into my own arms, crying in a rat-infested room in Northern California. Grasping, exhausted, and lost, I had embarked on this journey armed with an intense spreadsheet and tight timelines. My goal? To encounter communities reimagining care, mutual aid, and neighborhood relationships. Yet here I was, sprinting at these textured relational questions in dogged individualistic pursuit. I was in conversation with these most delicate human experiences in the language of project management. I was searching for community without experiencing it in my own life. Staring out the window, I caught sight of a mature redwood tree blowing playfully with the wind. She must have been 100 years old. Elder Grace Lee Boggs moved through my heart. She said, "Dear one, move at the speed of relationships." These times of high winds require us to travel at wise speeds and live with enough substance to keep us firmly grounded. As a worker bee in a generational cohort who feels there is no guarantee for the nectars of tomorrow, I am easily tempted by the voice of urgency at the expense of rest, joy, and relationships. Today, I am still on pilgrimage, but rather than barging down doors, this pilgrimage listens for gentle invitations. It takes on the spaciousness of decades. There aren't as many sugar highs, but it is beginning to take on a quality of equanimity, like the Buddha's soft smile, less science project, more artful uncovering.
Thank you, Serena. I want to know what sparked this piece and what is most important for you that readers take away. What have you learned from elders about traveling at wise speeds or listening for gentle invitations?
Well, I wrote most of this piece a day after I returned from a silent retreat. So it's a very tender feeling piece, born from just days and days of being present to my own subconscious and dreams, and I think the deeper movements of healing that are required within me. And so much of the piece that I just read and the two that came before that really focus on capturing the truth of what it feels like in this 26-year-old body as part of the Chinese diaspora to pursue dreams of cogenerational futures oriented in collective healing, and trying to be real that it's actually quite messy. It can be painful and tender and joyful, and not linear. And so that's kind of what I was really trying to evoke across the 3 different pieces, each of which have really different tones and feelings. But across all of that, I think the biggest invitation I've received while on this journey has been through elders, whether it's human elders and dear friends, or the elders that I find in trees, in particular the redwoods and the eucalyptus, as well as the elders in my own family line through my ancestors. They've played such a role in helping to invite me to feel more grace and more patience with myself, and with the pace at which we move and live into these questions. And that's, not something that I think 26-year-olds or folks in this generation are taught, because everything feels so raw and urgent and new and intense. And that's because it is, but the invitations through elders and friendships with them, they help root and remind me that these worlds that we dream of, they can be created, and it's this world we live in is not complete. It's one that we create and co-create and shape every day. And so long as each of us plays our role within this broader arc of time, that's kind of a sweet spot to be, and just this invitation to move slower, with reverence and with attention. That's where the miraculous can be found. Thank you. I am now very excited to introduce Liv Schaefer. Liv is the director of Dance Generators, an intergenerational dance company based at the University of San Francisco with members ranging in age from their teens to their 90s. Let's have a look at a portion of a video between Eva, age 20, and Yop, age 90.
I immensely enjoy the community of youth, something that I do not get in other times of my life. It's usually people of my own age that I'm with. The idea that to communicate across the ages, you might say. And when you communicate like that, for an instant, the difference disappears.
I think that you can learn something from every single person you talk to. And being at college, I'm mainly surrounded by people my age. And I've learned so much that I don't think I ever could have learned from my classmates, because you've lived a completely different life and you have a completely different way of expressing yourself. And we're all people and we all have had different life experiences, and we all just want to be treated as people. And I think on the dance floor, like, you're just a person. They don't really have time to think about, your age or any other factors. It's purely movement.
So Liv, I'd love to hear what is unlearned when generations come together to dance, and what is possible when this type of unlearning occurs?
Thanks so much, Serena. I love that question. And first, just taking a moment to name and amplify all of the people whom I learn from. There are some current and past dance generators in the room, as well as our founder, Amy Dowling, who's in the webinar audience, and Megan Nicely, our program chair. So just sending some gratitude to them. But of course, practicing dance in an age-diverse space encourages unlearning of biases and judgments we all have about age. Lots of younger people involved in the dance generators share their first light bulb moment of, I didn't know older adults could dance like that. But at Dance Generators, we dig a little bit deeper. We unlearn a narrative of competition that Western concert and colonized dance practices have taught us, without a need to be better or best, which really comes from a culture of scarcity and toxic individualism. We learn about abundance and communal care. There is no assumption that every body is showing up with the same physical and cognitive capacities, which catalyzes deep listening and sensitivity to one another with curiosity and generosity. We learn to value collaboration over comparison. And true creativity is sparked there, right? A kind of awe-inspired opening, asking what's possible here when our differences are together. We learn how to be co-stewards through the creative process, which then emboldens our abilities to take that outside of the dance studio and into engaging as co-stewards in civic life, in daily ritual, in mutual aid. What I observed being learned is a repairing of the many lost or fractured lineages we all come from, to fuse anew, to fuse intentionally. And it's capacity building. I think we talk about that for organizations all the time, but this is like on a personal level, capacity to sit with the murkiness that is between and beyond the polarities of our differences, to sit in the intangible spaces between each of us with care, and capacity to honor our body's ephemeral nature, really by steeping ourselves in the past and the future simultaneously. Thanks, Serena. I love that question. It is now my pleasure to introduce Ebony Walden and Michael Smith. Ebony Walden is an urban planner and co-creator of the Richmond Racial Equity Essays, which was designed to bring conversation, collaboration, and innovation to the process of dismantling racism and reimagining Richmond, Virginia. Michael Smith is an urban planner and philanthropy leader whose essay in this series explored 4 values he got from his church and can be a guide for racial equity work. His project, Exploring the Roots of Our Values, brings together a small intergenerational group of fellow activists in Richmond for a powerful conversation. In this audio clip, you'll hear Elaine Williams, a 29-year-old housing and homelessness advocate.
I think for me, as you talked about the movement and these pivotal moments in history around the movement, what I strongly have felt deeply as someone who has done this work is that there's a focus on the fight, but not the healing. And so many of us go and we work, right? We do the advocacy, we do the organizing, we do the activism, but we have wounds and no one's asking us how to heal. So the analogy around like, we all know what pain is. And do we receive opportunities to dream about what healing looks like? And so when you come to me and ask me why I come to this work, it's because I'm working to heal generations of trauma and cross intergenerations of trauma that is in my body, right? And so many people, it's a powerful moment we are having this conversation because I was just talking to my therapist, and I love my therapist. And I was talking about how, like, when you're in survival, it's so easy to try to do the next thing, to try to make sure, like, people, the urgency of my background is in housing and homelessness. So the urgency of getting people housed is what's in front of us. But once they are housed, then you have a lot more stability to think about all the other stuff, the trauma you've put away from when you were 7. And we don't have spaces where community can really start to heal past wounds and current wounds. So then you have trauma stacked up on trauma. And you're asking me to show up to this work and pretend like none of that exists. So I believe that as we think about what does moving forward, what does it look like to do this social healing cross generations, it has to be awareness that I see you as a fighter, but I also see you as a healer. And how do I equip you with the tools and resources so that you can heal yourself, but also be a mirror to help your community see that they have everything they need to heal themselves? And so I think the conversation around healing has to be a part of this conversation around movement and advocacy. And not just once you are harmed, but in the middle, like, how do we be proactive and not reactive to just the moments we're in?
So powerful. Michael, I want to amplify your 4 values to start us off. Respect of elders, solidarity in the pursuit of joy, trust and love of your neighbor, and the determination for collective liberation. Thank you for those. It feels like respect for elders is being particularly challenged and maybe rebelled against in American culture. How can we move through this and move towards more intergenerational collaboration?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that first, Liv. I think first we have to acknowledge that in American culture, we often operate in extremes, way too often. And I think what younger folks are responding to and rebelling against the respect of elders is the notion that you respect your elders above all else, which of course would be denying their own voice, their own wisdom and experience, and their own sense of freedom and agency. And I think in response to that, we've gone to the other extreme of dismissing our elders. But of course, we must find a more balanced and middle way. And I think that is honoring, highlighting, centering the voice of elders in our projects, but not above of other generations, but in the spirit of mutual respect and collaboration. I think if we're going to be committed to social healing, we have to let go of some of the hierarchy of somebody has to be above and other folks has to be below, but in the spirit of mutuality. And that's what we try to do as part of the Richmond Racial Equity Essays. We had participants that were creating their vision for a racially equitable city. Folks from their 20s to folks in their 80s were in conversation about what's the future of our city going to be. And of course, we did that in a multimedia format, so it was accessible to people across generations. We created space for different life experiences and perspectives to be shared on the basis of mutual respect. And of course, that's absolutely shared and reflected in Michael's conversation with Elaine, Ben, and Zakia, which you can go and hear the entire piece. And of course, it's the spirit of this particular project. What we need to do is operate in mutual respect and be very intentional about creating opportunities for intergenerational collaboration. We have to think about that in the design and then the delivery of our social change efforts, not only now, but also in the future. And of course, would love what Michael, let's hear what Michael has to say as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ebony, and thank you for the question too, Liv. And I just want to quickly lift up Elaine, Zakia, Reverend Campbell, and all those who helped inform this piece and inform me in this work. I just need to give them a shout out. I think the age of instant gratification contributes to some degree towards this rebellion against our elders. With social media, we are constantly fed with images of injustice. We see harm enacted upon certain groups, and we see inaction happening from those in power. And I think younger generations who both see this injustice happening in real time, while also learning about the history of this injustice in their schools, are justifiably fed up. They expect change to happen quickly and perceive those in power, often our elders, as inhibiting change. But the work of justice, as we know, is often a slow grind. It's a never-ending process of adding to the foundation of an existing structure. But that foundation exists, and it was built by our elders. And for those who have experienced injustice longer than us and who are deserving of experiencing joy and liberation, I think it's incumbent upon us that we engage our elders. It's an act of respect, inclusion, and love.
Thank you both so much for those answers.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Michael and Liv. And now I'm excited to introduce Elizabeth Lika Loken. Lika is the founder of Open Minds Through Art, an organization that uses collaborative art to support those with dementia. Her piece, In the Nursing Home, explores the power of rewriting our stories. Dissatisfied with the message that was conveyed in the original ending of this poem, she adds her own stanza to alter the meaning. Let's take a look.
In the Nursing Home, a poem by Jane Kenyon. She's like a horse grazing a hill of pasture that someone makes smaller by coming every night to pull the fences in and in. She has stopped running wide loops, stopped even the tight circles. She drops her head to feed. Grass is dust and the creek bed's dry. Master, come with your light halter. Come and bring her in. And find her a friend who needs to know what lies beyond the hill pasture.
Lika, thank you so much for that wonderful piece. And I'm so interested to know why you felt compelled to change the ending and the impact that you wanted to have.
Thank you, Ebony. Jane Kenyon, the author of this poem, is a great poet, one of my favorites. And the original poem obviously is complete and it's beautiful, and I'm not trying to improve upon it in any way. But at the same time, with the title In the Nursing Home and the ending of death, it reinforces the notion that people go into the nursing home waiting to die. And my 16-year work as a gerontologist at Scripps Gerontology Center in Miami University, doing Opening Minds to Art, taking students to nursing homes, pairing them up with people living with dementia, one-on-one, creating art, and also my work taking students to hospice, tells me that people in the nursing home are not just waiting to die. They can still continue to be contributing to the students' education. Students learn so much from these older adults, and some don't remember and day to day, and some are dying, some cannot even speak, but students still learn a great deal from it. You know, maybe initially they come in to this service work as trying to help older people, but in the end, they come out saying, I learned so much. I grow so much. I didn't know that I have that in me. I want to be just like her. She's such a role model for me. And the kind of learning that they take away from these experiences cannot be achieved by staying on campus and learning the subject matter. So they learn directly from the older adults. And so people go in a nursing home, they're not just waiting to die. They continue, like Eunice said, the river of cogenerativity continues to flow even after people go into the nursing home or go into hospice. That's why I decided to change the ending and find her a friend. And then the friend can benefit so much and the older adult benefit. So it's both sides benefit from the interaction.
I love that. Well, beautiful piece and great ending.
Thank you. Now I'd like to bring it back to Eunice, who's going to tell us more about the interactive piece of this collection and close us out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lika. Thank you all of our fellows who created this incredible body of work. I was tracking the chat box, just so you know, because you were all focused on sharing your pieces. There's just so much love there for your work, the ways you're opening up people's hearts and minds. And clearly there's a set of conversations here that we don't have nearly enough of, and we all need to have much more often. You also were incredible at landing the plane right on time. Nobody went over. It's just like a little miracle of an event. So I do have some time to just share a couple of reflections that I heard from each of you, just to recap, because there was so much here. Rowena started us off with Circle of Chairs, really a call to connect with one another, human to human, in ways that allow us to say, I see you, I know you. Dr. Kitty, your beautiful song, Don't Put Your Dreams Away, calls us to be committed dreamers and change makers, to see ourselves in a bigger light. And Uma, your poem in which we say we won't go back, so powerful. I think for me, I really heard a need for us to look at generational advocacy for social justice. It's not one generation. We have to look at the whole lifespan over time. Catherine, so fun to hear the stories of Koreatown Storytelling Project, and a reminder that coming together across generations over food isn't just a celebration, that it's sacred and it's a form of healing. Serena, your piece, your essay on encounters across time, just reminding us the importance of moving at the speed of relationship. People put in the comments, wise speeds, that concept of moving at a wise speed, and that the world isn't complete. We have to co-create it each day. Liv, I could watch that Dance Generators piece just again and again. Thank you for reminding us that we have to root ourselves in curiosity, generosity, creativity, and that there's real possibility when we bring our differences together. Ebony and Michael, the exploration that you allowed us into through exploring the roots of our values. Once again, themes of dreaming. What does it look like to dream about opportunities to heal? And then to anchor that in mutual respect, letting go of hierarchies that keep us apart, including generational hierarchies, and then to lean into the spirit of mutuality. And Lika, you really brought things home in the nursing home. I am so in awe of the courage and agency it takes to rewrite our own narratives, to tell a different and more whole and human story. And so all of this is a lead up to say, we're excited for you to spend more time with each of these pieces, to explore the individual prompts that are on the website that go with each of the pieces, and also want to create a space for you all, the audience, to contribute your creativity to this collection, because I know these stories resonated in your hearts. This isn't just something these 8 have done. This is something that we all need to engage in. So we've built something, we've called it the Community Garden, and Duncan's going to show us some of what that looks like. So the main collection that you just experienced includes 8 seeds of inspiration, but we know there are many more of you with creative ideas about cogenerational social healing, and we want you to plant those seeds and help us grow this community garden. So after spending time with the main collection, you can actually go and contribute a story, an essay, a poem, audio, video files, illustrations, interviews, an embodiment practice, reflections. The sky's the limit. You've seen the range of creativity here just with these 8. So please contribute. I want to give a big thank you to the people in our community who are already interacting and contributing to the community garden in this way. You'll see some of those examples there. And finally, I want to say just a big thank you to the On Being Project, to Krista, Lucas, Eddie, Gretchen, and Aaron, to Marcy and Sarah from the Cogenerate team for just such a joyful partnership, a cross-generational partnership for producing this collection with our amazing fellows. In many ways, we see this as just the beginning. We'll be encouraging people to check out this new digital media collection in the coming months. And thank you to our audience, the over 1,000 who registered to show interest in this. And for those of you who showed up here in person today, you chose to spend an hour of your day with us exploring cogenerational social healing. We thank you for that. Please take this conversation back into your own life. It's a real privilege to have you in our community spreading our work. As our final little bit, I want to bring all our creative contributors back for a final wave goodbye, and to give you back a little bit of your time. Talk about spaciousness. This is amazing. We're ending in exactly the right way. So we're going to wave goodbye. We hope to see you at our next event soon. Take care.